Hello and welcome to this stream here. I just wanted to do a little bit of a stream. I don't do too many that aren't just me actually playing games, but I wanted to do a live stream, just talk here about Summer Game Fest that's coming up pretty soon here in a couple of weeks, June 9th through 12th, I believe, and just kind of my thoughts about that and the fact that I do miss E3. So, and kind of what I want from PlayStation slash what I actually think is realistic as well as like Nintendo and stuff. So I think for the big thing with Summer Game Fest is I just hope it's better this year. Summer Game Fest started back in 2020, so this is the third year, and it's been, I guess you could say, sort of like the replacement for E3, if you will, because 2020 we didn't have E3 because of COVID. 2021 we had E3, but it was pretty darn lame. And this year they're not having E3. And really, some people say E3 has been dead for like 10 years. I wouldn't go that far. I'd say really the last good E3 was 2018. 2019 wasn't that good. 2020, like I said, got canceled. Last year it was pretty bad. So 2018 is the last year I really consider of E3 as like the E3 that we knew and loved. And I miss it because I miss having that set time where okay, you get to June 10th or 9th or whatever the date was going to be, on the year, that you would know for about 3 or 4 days, you get a ton of video game news. It was just something really cool to look forward to, especially because like now Sony, the last couple of years, has kind of done their own thing, even while E3 was kind of dying before, I guess you could say 100% died, pretty much. Sony was already kind of doing their own thing. It's just kind of annoying because I understand it from the developer's perspective that they don't want to have like 3 or 4 days where they have to put everything basically, be ready to talk about everything in like 3 or 4 days. It puts a lot of pressure on the developers to have trailers ready and such, and whatnot. And then if they didn't, they'd have a lot of backlash. But so I understand that, but at the same time, I like that because it was, like I said, more time. Where now it's just kind of random, especially with, like I said, with Sony, because with Sony and how I was saying they've done things randomly the last few years, Sony has a lot of stuff they could show right now, and I mean a lot. And so in the past, if it was how it was in the past, you would be a couple weeks away from getting major bombs from Sony and like a good 1 2 hour, probably 1 hour at the least, type of show going over that kind of stuff. Now it's like we don't really know. Like, are they gonna have just a little bit of stuff here and there through the rest of the year, or are they gonna have a big show in September like they did last year? Although I feel like September's a little late if you follow some of the stuff they do, but you just don't know. Like they could have, like I said, a major show in September. They could have one in August, maybe in August instead, June, July. Like there's really no way to know. And I don't like that uncertainty that comes with it, and the fact that Sony, like I said, has a lot they could show, as well as the fact that because they haven't shown a lot of this stuff right now, we're kind of in a slow time for Sony. They've had a lot of good games come out on PlayStation 5. It's just a lot of like the future right now is a question mark. So even though they have had good games, we kind of want to know what's next, which I think is fair to kind of have an outlook on what can you expect from the system for the next, 6 months, a year, 18 months or so, or whatever. And I understand too, not want to show things too early. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Sony here. But first, I want to start with Nintendo real quick, because Nintendo, I feel like I have less to say, just because I don't necessarily know if they're hiding things a lot. Like I can pretty much guess PlayStation is based off of leaks and rumors and timelines of their past games and stuff. So with Nintendo, my biggest thing is Breath of the Wild 2 got delayed, unfortunately, till 2023, spring of 2023. In fact, some people said maybe that it'll be out in late March, but with them saying spring, I'm thinking April or later, just because I know technically the end of March is spring, but to be on the safe side, I guess you could say, I expect more April or even later. Plus, I'm kind of paranoid when it comes to these last few years and delays. I'm at the point where I hate hearing the word delay. It like triggers me now, because we've had so many movies and games and everything because of COVID and lockdowns and work from home and all that the last few years, that it's really slowed down game development, and it just annoys me to hear delay constantly. And it seems like every single game is being delayed right now, and it seems like even half the games are getting like 2 or 3 delays. Um, you know, and it's just frustrating. Um, but yeah, from the Nintendo side, anyway, Breath of the Wild 2 got, like I said, got delayed till next year. The big thing with Breath of the Wild 2, I'd say, is just give us a new trailer, if not gameplay or both, but at least one of those. If we go past June or whatever, and Nintendo has not shown anything for Breath of the Wild 2, I'm going to go crazy. We need at least some sort of update. It would help kind of make that a little bit easier while we wait for next year for it to come out. So please, and so that's what I'm thinking with Nintendo's the big thing with Nintendo. I think they will. I think Nintendo will give us some sort of trailer, even if it's not real in-depth gameplay. And it's just a couple-minute trailer. That would be still a good thing to have, and hopefully it'll show a dungeon. So that's the big thing with Nintendo is that I think that will happen. Breath of the Wild 2 trailer in June. I also think we'll get some more news about Mario Kart 8 and its second DLC. It's been, I think, like 2 months or something since, maybe a month and a half. I don't know exactly, but since the first Mario Kart 8 wave of DLC tracks came out, because it's 8 waves, 6 tracks per wave. So we're waiting for wave 2. I think that will be announced in terms of what tracks will come out for that and when to, expect that. Because it's probably with them doing 8 tracks over almost a 2-year stretch or something. It'll probably be one wave every, I don't know, 3 months or so, something like that, until they finished all 8 waves by the end of next year. So I think we'll get that as well as, like I said, the Breath of the Wild 2. I'm really hoping for a new DK. We are way overdue, I feel like, for a new DK game. It's been way too long since Tropical Freeze came out. It was ported over to the Switch, but it was originally a Wii U game back in, I believe, 2014. So you're talking about like 8 years or so. And so I really hope we get that. And then the last thing is that I think we will get is Splatoon 3 comes out in September. So I think we will get Splatoon 3, just more info, perhaps about the single player, because they kind of tease that the single player might be a little more open, if you will. And we still haven't really necessarily got a good idea of what will make Splatoon 3 really different from Splatoon 2. And I remember some people complaining that Splatoon 2 was too much of like 1, although it had some decent differences. But if you have, not a lot of upgrade for, a second game in a row, then you might have people starting to complain, compare it to other shooters like Call of Duty and such, and that you're not seeing a ton of changes. But I don't expect that will be the case. I think there will be a solid amount of changes. So I think we'll get that. And then it just leaves a question of, will we get a Bayonetta 3 update, Metro Prime 4 update? Bayonetta 3, I think we will get some sort of trailer during a Nintendo Direct, because I think Nintendo will do a Direct in June like they have been, even though we're not getting E3. I don't know if they'll be part of the actual Summer Game Fest or not, though, because that's kind of separate from the Directs, if you will. The interesting thing, too, about Summer Game Fest this year is in the past couple of years when they first started Summer Game Fest, they didn't show a lot, really, and it also felt like it kind of dragged because there was announcements over like several months, which kind of goes with the whole reason of how I was saying I like the old style of E3 because of the fact that you got a lot of info in a short time. Now, if you get a lot of info, but it's stretched out over several months, I don't know, it just kind of drags. But this year they're saying it's going to be a little more like E3. Microsoft already announced on June 12th they're having a show of some sort. Don't know exactly how long it'll be, but they have given that info. Nintendo, if they've been like they've been the last several years, with back with E3 and like giving directs in June and stuff, theirs would be on the 14th, but we don't know that. And then there's even some rumors now that PlayStation might do something the first week of June, which would be great because my birthday is the first week of June for one. So it'd be kind of cool if I got info from Sony on my birthday or like a day or two before or after or whatever. It would almost kind of feel like a birthday present for me. So there's that. So we'll see what happens with that, which leads me to Sony. So I don't know if the rumor will be true that they'll actually do a show in June. That's a big show. What I'm kind of leaning towards, even though I would like to just get like a big show, But at the same time, this would still semi-satisfy me, and I think it would semi-satisfy other people, which is God of War Ragnarok. They've been saying for a while that it's coming out this year. It's still on track. However, because of, like I said, with everything being in a status these last few years, it's hard to really trust until a game has gone gold almost at this point that a game will not get delayed, even if it's been delayed once, which God of War has. And it kind of reminds me actually of the fact they keep saying it's not, that it's on track and all this, but aren't showing more stuff at the same time. It kind of reminds me actually of last year with Horizon Forbidden West, where for a long time the developers kept saying it's on track for 2021. No, it's on track for 2021. No, it's coming out this year. And then what happened? It got delayed till early 2022, early this year. So because of that too, just them saying, it's still on track. I'm like, but you said that about Horizon, so can we really trust that this isn't going to be a repeat and that it actually is coming out this year? I didn't think there was any chance that it would get delayed until next year. In fact, I actually thought maybe we'd already have had a release date announced for it by chance, but we haven't. So that kind of leads me, I think, to my first thing with Sony. I think they'll do kind of what they did last year, which is last year, late May. I don't know the exact date. I just know it was towards the end of May. They did a state of play for Horizon Forbidden West. They didn't give a release date with it, though. I think we'll see something similar with God of War. I think late May we'll get a show. So not this week, but like the week after. Not this week coming up, meaning tomorrow, but like the week after or the week after that, which would be like the last week of May. I think we'll get a state of play for God of War Ragnarok, and I think we will get a release date with it. And for a while, I was thinking kind of September, kind of that Spider-Man. Feeling like it might be October, even though October seems like Sony, because now you're starting to get a little close to the holidays. And Sony seems like they kind of stay away from the holidays on their first party. Although that could just be a coincidence where games haven't necessarily been quite ready for that time. So I'm going to say October, maybe September, but I'm kind of feeling like it's getting a little late now to not have more footage and to actually have an official release date announced, to actually have it out by September. So I think we'll get that in late May. And then that leaves the fact that there's a lot that Sony can show, both from the PlayStation VR perspective. PlayStation VR, we still don't have an official price and a release date. For a while, I thought it would be 2022, a late 2022, but there have been some rumors about early 2023. And when you combine the rumors and, again, the fact that everything seems to be delayed nowadays, and the fact we don't have an official price and release date and all that, I'm kind of leaning towards that it could be a early 2023 release. At the same time, I feel like the fact that Sony did start to kind of give us small little bits of PlayStation VR and Call of the Mountain game being a thing, kind of leads me to the fact that it could be out this year. So I don't know how to feel about that, but you got that. And then there's just a lot of PlayStation Studios that, based off of like the last release, you could say, are kind of due to announce their next game, even if it's just like a small teaser. There's several studios that, based off the last release too, will not be showing anything till at least next year, maybe even the year after, just because it's simply too soon, most likely. But there are several that I feel like could show something this year. So I don't know how Sony goes about that. And that's why I feel like it's hard to really predict what Sony's going to do, because Sony, you could just do one big show where you have the God of War release date, where you show some of these big first party games that haven't been announced yet for, say, 2023, to give us a better idea of what's coming next year, besides just Spider-Man 2, as well as giving Spider-Man 2 gameplay. So you could have the VR, you could have the God of War, and all the other things that we kind of don't know about all together in one big show. Or what you could do is you could do like a state of play for God of War by itself, and maybe, or there's been talk about God of War and Final Fantasy kind of combining into one showcase. So you could do something like that, and then later in the year do a PlayStation VR, and then even have maybe another show where you do the things like Spider-Man 2 gameplay and those other first-party games that I'm about to kind of get into here. So there's really a lot of ways you could do it. You can almost do like 3 different shows, or you could put them all together, or you could do like the God of War thing by itself for whatever reason, and then do the VR thing with the first party by itself to have 2 shows. So I don't really know how you do that, and that's why it's frustrating too. Because in the past, you probably would have gotten all that here in a couple weeks for E3. So I just don't really know. But so this isn't really necessarily just predictions, just kind of talking about the whole idea. So with Sony, though, and the last thing I want to say kind of regarding this whole thing with Sony and why I say they have a lot to show is you have, like I said, God of War doesn't have a release date yet, Ragnarok. PlayStation VR 2 doesn't have a price or release date yet. I would think we'd get that some point this year, even if it does get pushed next year, the release. And I say push because we never actually had like it's coming out in 2022. It was just more a lot of based off like when Sony showed PlayStation VR 2 and some rumors and stuff that people thought, okay, it's coming out in 2022, but that was never actually like talked about by Sony themselves. So that's why I say if it does come out 2023, it's not technically a delay. It could be an internal delay. And what I mean by that is basically where Sony themselves were shooting for late 2022, thought they could up until, maybe a few months ago, and then realized, no, we need a little more time. We're going to have to release it later because that happens. Not every single time a game kind of gets delayed, if you will, do we know about it. You're going to have times where, because I think anytime you're working on a system, a particular game or whatever, you're going to have in the company in themselves, they're going to have kind of an idea of one, when they would like to get it done and what they think is a realistic time to get it done. And then if, can you reach that time period, or are you going to need a little more time, or can you even get it out quicker, which could happen sometimes. But yeah, so is that. So either way, I think PlayStation VR 2 will be announced this year, no matter what, even if it is coming out next year. If it's coming out next year, though, they might wait until a little later in the year to show PlayStation VR 2 price and release date. Where if it's coming out this year, they might do it earlier in the year, meaning like really, really soon, rather than like several months from now. So it's just interesting how they're going to kind of divide all that up. But I just feel like in general, they can't wait to do nothing or very little, let's say, until September. I just feel like to wait to September to do a God of War release date, PlayStation VR, give an idea of 2023 games, and even if there's like a small game or two that's not known for this year, September just feels way too late. Way, way, way too late. So basically, I just wanted to last thing, going with all that, not getting predictions necessary, but it's just kind of talk about PlayStation's first party situation right now. And not saying this things will be announced this year or whatever, just kind of a general overview of them. So you have Guerrilla Games. They have 2 teams. You have the team that made Horizon Forbidden West. Got to play that game if you have not played it. I just beat it like a little over a week ago. 82% completion. Still trying to 100% completion. Might stream some more of that soon. I've kind of taken a little bit of a break, though, and gone since I beat the main story and started playing Kirby on the Switch, just because I haven't played my Switch that much lately. But I might go back to God of War soon and stream. But you got the first team that did that. One thing I do think with Summer Game Fest in particular is, like I said, Sony has been kind of doing their own thing. I don't know how much they'll participate in Summer Game Fest itself because of that, unless they do a showcase or show or whatever in early June. But if they don't, the one thing I could see them doing to be involved in Summer Game Fest, just based off of, I think they've done something like this before in the past, where they haven't necessarily done like their own big show during like an E3 or Summer Game Fest, but have still had something there. Is I think it's very, very possible that Horizon Forbidden West DLC could be announced at Summer Game Fest. I think that's very, very likely, actually, that could happen. And I think we'll get DLC for Horizon Forbidden West because the first game did. There's also there's some videos you can find online where basically in Horizon Forbidden West, uh, we have found from some videos. There's a couple spots that seem like you can see certain things, but you can't necessarily reach them. Such as there's an area where it looks kind of like the Hoover Dam, and near that area, I believe it was, there's a machine that looks like maybe he's trying to guard an entrance to something, but yet the machine isn't on the map. So people think there could be like an underwater cave there where the machine is kind of guarding the underwater cave that you can get into and swim, and then you're past like the Hoover Dam for like a DLC area or something like that. And I think there's one other area too. I don't know as much about that other area that people are talking about, and people think it could be like an LA type of area or something, since Forbidden West, as the title says, basically takes place in the West. The main game, I believe, took place in Nevada, California, and Utah, if I'm not mistaken. I think we're like the areas. So yeah, you could have LA in there, being that LA is obviously part of California. So yeah, I think we'll get Horizon Forbidden West at Summer Game Fest. That's the one thing I think Sony will do, kind of separate from a show, if they don't decide to actually do a show. That is okay. So the other first party stuff with Sony that I'll get into here, and try not to go too long. This video is already going a little longer than I was hoping, but so Insomniac Games, who I absolutely love, like one of my favorite developers, Ratchet and Clank games, Spider-Man games, both great, amazing games and becoming franchises now, since you have had 2 Spider-Man games with the Miles game, even though it was a smaller game, and now we're getting Spider-Man 2. And Wolverine, I think, will be great. Wolverine sounds like it's further in development, so I don't expect to see anything for Wolverine till next year, because it sounds like it's pretty early in development, as well as the fact that it's being made by the people who made Miles Morales, which means that it's only been in development for like a year and a half or so, around. Might have had a little, pre-planning before that, like a roundtable where they discuss ideas for what they'd want in the game. But a year and a half isn't that much to actually be making a game. So Wolverine, I think next year is a pretty safe bet to get something update on that, even if it's like a late 2023 that you get an update on that, because it sounds like the game's 2024, maybe even a 2025 release. So it's pretty far out. So I don't think we'll get that. But I do think with Insomniac, we'll get a Spider-Man 2 trailer for sure this year. Just because the game's supposed to come out next year, and with how quick Insomniac is, it actually wouldn't surprise me if it's an early 2023 game rather than a middle or late. Although I think a lot of people are expecting it to be kind of like September time period, like the first game was. But actually, right now, I'm thinking it's going to be early 2023. My mind might change as time goes on, especially if the VR stuff comes out early next year. But for now, that's kind of my thought. I think at worst, it'll be a late 2023 game, meaning even if it has a few delays and whatnot, I don't think it'll get pushed back to 2024, although, again, it's hard to say now. But either way, I think we'll get something from Insomniac for Spider-Man 2. I think we'll see the first gameplay because we've had the one announcement trailer. So I'd say gameplay for sure this year. Then this I'm very interested about. I don't know if we'll get it or not. I haven't been able to find any sort of details in terms of how long has this been in development. Has it been 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years? I don't know. But also Insomniac apparently is making some sort of multiplayer game. That's all we really know about it. We know that because there's been some job postings about it, but we don't know, is it going to be Spider-Man related? Is it going to be Ratchet and Clank related? Is it going to be like a new Resistance? That's kind of my least favorite option out of them because I don't care for first-person shooters at all. I tried to get into it, one of them, just because I love Insomniac, and I still couldn't get into it. Lost interest really quick playing one of the demos. But it could be that, or maybe it's even a completely new, original idea that they're going to use for a multiplayer game. I don't know, but I'm really intrigued by that, and I really hope that we get something with that this year in terms of announcements, so we actually know what we're getting from that, even if the game's far out. And like I said, I don't know how far out that game is because I don't know how long it's been, been worked on for one. But even if, like I said, it hasn't been worked on for a long time, it'd be great to even get something with that rather than having to wait longer. But I don't know how likely that is. Now, with Guerrilla Games, though, the first team I was talking about on Horizon, they do have a second team, which I meant to get to a minute ago. Sorry. Got to organize my thoughts better. But the Guerrilla Games, who makes Horizon Forbidden West and Zero Dawn. Before that, they have a second team who, kind of like the Insomniac situation, they're making a multiplayer game. Now, we know a little bit more in terms of time period, at least, with the second Guerrilla game compared to the Insomniac multiplayer game. And that is, we know that from job postings that the Guerrilla multiplayer game has been in development since 2018. So 4 years or so. So I would think that that game's probably far enough in development to have something to show, even if it's a teaser, small teaser. And I know sometimes some people might think, well, would they show their second game when Horizon Forbidden West hasn't been out for a super long time and it might even be getting a DLC? Would they show whatever their other team is making at the same time? And I would say, yeah, that could happen because of the fact that Insomniac, you had them announce Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine in the same show. So if they can do that, then why can't you have a studio show their next game while one of their other games is still getting some sort of DLC update stuff? So I think that's possible. And I'd be pretty surprised actually if we didn't get something from Guerrilla with their second team. And because of the fact that it's been in development for like 4 years, I think that's far enough along. You should have something to show by now. And so that one I'm interested in too, because kind of like the Insomniac thing, I'm hoping it's not like a new Killzone, because that would be the first person shooter thing. That's one possibility. It could be some sort of Horizon multiplayer spinoff. I don't know exactly how that would work. That could be perhaps a good idea. Maybe it'd be something, I don't know how that would work, but something similar to what you had with Ghost of Tsushima Legends multiplayer mode. So maybe it's something like that. Maybe it's a completely new, original, fresh idea for a multiplayer. I don't really know, but I think that will be announced. Okay, so you got that. So you got Guerrilla and Insomniac with both multiplayer games. One, I think, will be shown, which is the Guerrilla one. Insomniac, I'm not really sure. I'm 50-50 on that because I need to know how long it's been in development. I'll have to see if I can find that info somewhere, or if it's even possible to find that info, because I would think I would have come across something like that, because I find a lot of news on in4g.com for video games, and I would have thought kind of like the multiplayer game for Guerrilla, that if it had been in development for a while, I would have seen that kind of info rather than just seeing, oh, it's in development, multiplayer game. So you have that. Then there's forget how you say their name, the developer's name, but the developer who made Conquer Genie, a smaller studio. It's actually Sony's smallest studio, I believe, first party studio. Their last game was 2019. There's been a lot of rumors, I mean a lot, that they're making some sort of animation type game with Sony Animation, the movie studio. So that's very interesting. There's been talk that maybe it's some sort of Into the Spider-Verse game. Don't know if Sony would greenlight another Spider-Man game when you got Insomniac already making Spider-Man games, even though it could potentially be very different, being that it's by a different studio, and it would be more of like an animation game if that was the case, compared to the game going for more realistic graphics and whatnot. But that could be. There's been maybe a Men in Black that's been talked about. That's really about all I can really think of when it comes. Oh, Sly Cooper. There's been a lot of rumors about Sly Cooper, so maybe it's that. There was talk a while back, I believe, about Sly Cooper having a TV show or something being created like that, and didn't happen at the time, or a movie, or might have even been a movie. I'm not sure, but maybe that's still like kind of a thing being worked on behind the scenes. Some sort of Sly Cooper animation TV show, movie, or something, and maybe you'd have that with them making a game. That's an interesting possibility because Sly Cooper is one of those franchises that has been around for a while, but hasn't had a new game for a while. Last Sly Cooper game was on PS3, so you're talking about Gen Plus since the last one. I say Gen Plus because I don't remember how far into the PS3 gen it was that we got Sly Cooper, so it might even be closer to 2 generations since that. But yeah, it could be that. So that's a possibility. And then there's a few studios that Sony has bought over the last few years, but I don't know if you would have anything to show for those yet. A couple of those studios are studios that have only actually been around for a couple of years and haven't actually released their first game, and don't know if they'd be far enough into that. So that's possible. I'm talking to myself. I'm just making a. Why am I talking to myself? I'm just making a video here about kind of Summer Game Fest, if you will. So yeah. Then Naughty Dog. So there's been a lot of rumors about Naughty Dog coming out with a multiplayer game. I'm trying to remember Fractions. I'm forgetting what that's called, but they're Naughty Dog talking about doing a multiplayer game of some sort, and that could be the case, kind of based off of The Last of Us. There's also been rumors about them doing a Last of Us 1 remaster, so that's possible. Not really sure how good of an idea that is, but that's possible. Blue Point, that is another studio. So Blue Point, I do think, going back to Naughty Dog actually real quick, Naughty Dog I think will show something, because the last thing was Last of Us 2, which was 2020, so it wasn't super long ago, but they could have a multiplayer type of thing off of that, perhaps ready to show. I don't think they would have a new IP ready, or even like a Last of Us 3 if they decide to go that route ready. I think it's too soon for that. But anyway, Blue Point. So Blue Point Studios is a studio that has been known for doing remasters or remakes. Yeah, remakes I meant, and doing really well with them. They did, I believe, the Uncharted 1 through 3 collection. They did Demon Souls. I'd have to look kind of at their history of what else they've done, but they're known for that. I think they will announce something. There's even been rumors that they got 2 teams now, and that one's doing a original game and one doing a remaster game. I'm not sure what they would do in terms of the remaster exactly. And what, obviously, if they're making a new IP, I have no idea. It would be cool to see them do a new IP, though, because that's kind of getting out of their comfort zone, if you will, since they've been known for remakes. It would give them more creative control, more creative freedom, if you will, and I think that would be a pretty cool thing to see. Now, one more thing I want to say with Insomniac here with the first party stuff is they have a lot, like I said, going for them in terms of Spider-Man Wolverine, the multiplayer game. But I also wonder, and if they would do this, or even if they don't do it, if another studio, who knows, maybe even Blue Point would. It would be a surprise if Blue Point was behind it. But I hope that we get some sort of Ratchet and Clank collection, because I'm a big Ratchet and Clank fan, and we're in the 20th year since the original Ratchet and Clank. The original Ratchet and Clank came out in 2002. And back in 2012, we had a 10-year anniversary collection for Ratchet and Clank HD collection that had at the time the first 3 original PS2 games on PS3 in HD. So I'm wondering if we'll get something similar for the 20-year anniversary here. I would love a collection. I don't know if it would be realistic to get every single console Ratchet and Clank game. That would be, I believe, 12 Ratchet and Clank games. I don't know if it'd be realistic to get all that. But even if you don't, because we did get the PS2 collection games on PS3, why not have a PS3 collection of Ratchet and Clank games here now on PS5, but with more like Rift Apart graphics? So if that's the case, you'd be talking about stuff like Ratchet and Clank Tools of Destruction, and Ratchet and Clank Crack in Time, and Ratchet and Clank Quest for Booty, something like that in a collection. I think that would be pretty cool type of thing. So yeah, there's that. Okay, so now I want to cover, lastly, the multiplayer games and what I think will happen type of thing. So TMNT, Turtles in Time, or not Turtles in Time. That's an older TMNT game, but TMNT, big part of my childhood, being that the first movie came out, I think when I was either born or like a year before, a year after, something like that. But they're making the TMNT Shredder's Revenge game. We don't have a release date on that. We've just been getting told summer constantly. And there's been a lot of previews. I'm kind of sick of the previews at this point. I'm like, just give me a release date. I've already seen enough of the game. I don't care to hear anything else about the game other than just a release date. And we know that the game's also going to get a physical release by Limited Run Games sometime after release. I think the Limited Run game after release will probably be at least a couple months after the digital release, which is also part of why I really want to know the release date, because I'm in a wait for the physical release. I always like to have things physical rather than digital if there's an option. And knowing that there's going to be an option, even if I have to wait perhaps several months, or I don't know, I hope it's not like a year, but that means I'll wait for that. So I think it will get a release date. It's got to, all right, if they keep saying summer, unless they delay it again, which again that could happen. But it was supposed to be a 2021 game actually at one point. So because it was supposed to be a 2021 game, I'm going to say that it does actually get its summer release this time, and that it doesn't get delayed again. So I think we'll get that very soon. There's also a TMNT collection that's 13 games from like Super Nintendo and Game Boy Color and such. And all we know about that is that it's coming out this year. Hasn't even gone a quarter or time window. It hasn't gotten a time window like the other one with being, season or quarter or whatever. But I think that collection, I think we'll get some sort of release date. So I think we'll get those two TMNT release dates for the two separate things. Then this one I'm kind of iffy on. So Suicide Squad Kill Justice League, I cannot wait for. The game got delayed to 2023 though, and that's all we know in that regard. And it's always harder too. I feel like if you get a delay for a game and then you don't hear anything about it for a while, I feel like it's a little bit easier to stomach a delay of a game if you then get like it's been delayed, but here's a trailer, and then you see a little bit. At least that kind of, you get some news in between the last time you got it and now the delay without having to wait several months after it got delayed to get anything else. So I'm hoping with Suicide Squad, since that didn't happen right away, I'm hoping we'll at least get something with it and that we won't have to wait till next year. I'm really hyped for Suicide Squad because it's made by the same people that did the Batman Arkham games, and which were fantastic games. And the fact that from what we have seen gameplay wise, it looks like it's going to be a really fast paced, fun game. So I hope we get something for that. And like I said, don't have to wait all the way to 2023 to potentially get an update on that. So I think we will get that. And that's kind of my final thought when it comes to Nintendo, PlayStation, and multi-platform games. Don't have much to say about Xbox because I just don't care much for Xbox, and I don't ever expect much from them. And Starfield, which is a game that people have been hyping up a lot for Xbox, got delayed till next year, which wasn't a surprise because literally like all that's been shown on that game is a title. Haven't really gotten any screenshots, any gameplay, any trailers, so I don't really understand the hype for that either, considering there's been basically no news for it in a sense. And I don't really understand how you can get hyped by just a simple title. The only way I can understand getting hyped by a title is if it's something where you actually kind of have an idea, such as like Wolverine, because although we actually did get a small teaser for that, but even if it was just a title, because of the fact that we know it's a superhero game, so you still kind of know what to expect. Where Starfield, you really know nothing. But that's my general thoughts. This video has went on a little longer than I was expecting. But hope Summer Game Fest is good. Hope you guys enjoy it. And if you like this video, as always, subscribe and leave your comments below. And if you guys watch this video later and leave comments that, are not the live chat comments or whatever, I'll try to answer things or respond to things or whatever. But just, yeah, what do you think about Summer Game Fest? What do you want to see from any of the companies? As always, thanks for tuning in. Bye.